Good morning and welcome back to another edition of the Bakersfield Business Partners Podcast. My name is Duncan Harris. I'm the owner of Insurance Savings Group and the past president of Bakersfield Business Partners. We are a BNI chapter here in Bakersfield. And actually, we are the number one rated, highest ranked, best, most official BNI group here in Bakersfield. We have the best membership. So we started a podcast to highlight our membership. And Fred Walkover is here with me today. Good morning, Fred.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Thank you for coming in. For those that don't know you really quick, just introduce yourself, what you do, who you are.
Yeah. So I'm the owner and principal coach for Crescendo Coaching Group. And I do professional coaching, development coaching, typically for people in business or that own their business, and both from an individual, group, and team coaching standpoint.
Awesome. And how long have you been doing that?
I've been coaching, I tell people, through most of my career, officially as being trained coach, about 2.5 years.
Awesome. So let's just dive right in. Tell me, what do you enjoy most about coaching? I mean, you said you've been doing it throughout your career. I know you've been in lots of different corporate environments, and now officially your capacity is a coach. So you must love it. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's energizing for me, just seeing the impact. And what I love most is helping others achieve a higher potential for themselves. As they explore and understand themselves better and are open to see how they're showing up for themselves and for others. And it's not just in a work environment, because sometimes this translates into how they show up for their family and loved ones. So it's being able to walk beside them and help them find a new, better self for themselves.
Yeah. Do you think you could continue the story? We just talked about this. Someone you were coaching yesterday. It was late at night. I mean, do you want to share that? Do you feel comfortable sharing that?
Sure. So I was coaching this individual, lives in a country across the world. So time differences, it was 8 o'clock for me and it was like 7 in the morning for him. And as I came to the coaching, I was late in the evening. I was ready to just coach and then go to bed. I was tired after a long day of coaching. And as it started out, he started sharing an update with him about how things have been going. And from a coach standpoint, one of my goals is to identify what do you really want to focus on here? What can we peel back and better understand for yourself to drive that self-awareness and growth? And as he was giving this update, it seemed I've had a hard time getting to that point. But what he was sharing, as I really just paused and listened, was how he's employed and put to work all the things he's been working on through our prior sessions. And this is only our third session. But he's showing up differently with more confidence, putting himself out there more. And he's not necessarily a hermit by any means, but just how he engages people at work, how he's now volunteering and engaging people for some volunteer work to fundraise this weekend. And what his goal is, and just going and learning and putting him, as he said, his words, putting himself out there, which he wouldn't have done 2 weeks ago. So it's just when I can see and feel the energy in them and just the awareness and thought, it feels good. And it seems selfish to say that, but because I really do it for the clients, but it does feel good and I get energy from it.
Sure. That's great. No, that's fantastic. Now, you don't just work with individuals, you also coach teams.
That's right.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So I've always been attracted to teams. As you said, I've been in corporate for years. Some small startup companies, some large Comcast, for example, and Spectrum, in operations. And in being those teams, I know what it is to progress through the organization, start as a manager, director, vice president. And so you expand your responsibilities, and then how you feel when you're sitting at those different tables in those different teams, and look at the effectiveness of teams as a whole. And I find there's some teams a few teams that I've worked on that have been very effective, very open. I'll say the goal of a team, and a goal I've always had, is when you have a group of people around the table, how do you effectively leverage the collective intelligence of the team to do more. So we're more than just the sum of the parts. And when I started on my journey with team coaching, I did a 10-month diploma program that just completed in June, and just learned dynamic systems around teams and how to approach that. What I'm finding is there's a lot of teams out there that struggle with just getting out of a routine that's not producing what they want. So for example, they'll come to a meeting, everyone will give their update to the boss, that really could have been handled a different way, maybe through one-on-ones or just sending the boss an update, but they don't use the time to really do that generative thinking. And so team coaching looks at how the team interacts. So if you and I are a team, what perspectives, what, I say baggage, but what are we bringing as an individual? How do we look at things? And how does that impact what we put out on the table and how we make decisions? And when you multiply that by more than one person in the group, it brings a lot out there. But the dialogue that happens at a team level doesn't always expose that. So team coaching is about how to help the team communicate and collaborate better so that they get to the point that they're doing this generative thinking and creating more than just the sum of the parts.
So instead of just the regular weekly meeting, weekly updates, you kind of like to break that down, analyze it at a deeper level, and really evaluate things there. All right. Well, what challenges do you face when you're coaching teams?
Yeah. So it's complex, for one thing, because you have all these individual personalities and how they show up in the room. And there's certain, I'll say, behavioral tendencies. You may have one person that's always throwing out a bunch of ideas. And you might have another person that just, as they show up, seems to oppose all those ideas, right? No, that's not going to work. And no, we can't do that. And it could be that there's some legitimate logical reasons behind that, or that's just how they approach things. And maybe they're aware and maybe they're not. But peeling that back and understanding how those different roles, if you will, create what it does create and what is it not allowing to happen if you keep shutting things down, or if you have a bunch of people and they're all creating ideas but we never make a decision, or when it comes to conflict, as a team we avoid it, right? We just let it go. It could be something external, it could be something we generated inside the team. So what makes it challenging but also exciting and fun is helping the team, pausing the team and say, what did you just notice? Duncan just said this, right? Just shared this about how he's looking at this. And what came up for you around that? How'd that make you respond internally about, and maybe you're voicing it, maybe you're not, but let's get it in the room.
You must run into people that they're just scared to share. They're scared to speak up, to get their voice out there. I feel like maybe that's part of the problem, when you have teams, is some people are just naturally more assertive than others. How do you handle that? How do you help teams deal with that?
Yeah, great question. I'll say at the outset of a team coaching engagement, one of the things I work with them on is kind of a meeting rules or meeting agreements, ground rules on how do we want to be in this coaching environment together? What are we all going to agree to do? And a big piece of that is making sure every voice comes in. So team coaching that I did just the other day, and I went around and had everybody share, after we did a brief check-in, answers to two questions. How do you like to receive feedback? And how do you like to be interrupted? So if you're talking and someone else wants to get their voice in the room, what's comfortable for you? And it was amazing just at the diversity and the sensitivity that different people have, different levels of sensitivity of being interrupted, for example, at different spectrums. And too often we as individuals think that people are just like us. If they're going to respond like Fred, they're going to look at things the same way Fred does, and obviously reality, we're all different. We all have different experiences. We all come at things from a different angle. And when that gets in the room, when people understand, even here's how I like to be interrupted, then it allows for something different to happen. Because the rest of the team now heard that, and that's probably something that never went into the room before.
Yeah, interesting. Do you still find the team coaching to be as rewarding? Like, are you able to build those connections with people like you are in the individual coaching? Maybe that's a hard question, but
yeah, well, it's a great question. I'll say it's different. It's a different dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
The individual. I was coaching an individual yesterday afternoon, and just I'll say the depth and the reflection that she was getting to was palatable. I mean, I always wanted to reach out and hug her, and she was across, on the eastern part of the country. So, but it just felt so good that she was looking inward and really asking herself, instead of pointing the finger at somebody else, what am I bringing to this relationship? Not the one that she had with somebody else that was causing this conflict. So on a one-on-one coaching, there's a connection there, and you're trying to build that. But in a team, you're building that trust as well. And I told myself, and as I've gone through this, the training around team coaching, the psychological safety, the container that you have to build for a team has to be that much larger. Because you have to allow for not only if two people, if I'm coaching an individual, the container is the two of us. If I'm coaching a team, then it's the individuals to me, but it's also between themselves. And I don't assume when I go into a team coaching engagement that there is psychological safety on the team, that they feel that they can say what they truly feel, or that they have to say what they think other people want to hear. And the goal of the team coaching is, how do we strip that away so I can just be myself, I can show up authentically. So the challenge is really stepping back and not engaging in the content that gets discussed, but it's really the interactions, and it's the how they do what they do.
Well, what else? Anything else can you share with us before we kind of switch gears to talk about B&I really quick?
Yeah. I think there's just a huge opportunity for teams. And when you look at how you measure team performance, it could be KPIs for the business, typically, or what a nonprofit is working towards and putting on a program. What I'm finding is you can, from a team coaching standpoint, enable them to accomplish so much more and feel freer in doing it, because they're bringing their whole selves, and they're transparent on, here's what I think we should do, but here's why, here's what's behind it, and here's kind of how I'm coming to this. And when you can get them to share more broadly and more transparently, then the team just accomplishes more.
You said there's a huge opportunity for teams. I mean, do you mean to say, like, most teams are in a way underperforming what they could be doing because they just kind of haven't gone through these exercises?
Yeah, I think and it's more than just team building and say, I like you, right?
Yeah. Trust falls.
Yeah, I mean, those, there's a lot of science to say whether those work or don't work.
Okay.
It breaks down some boundaries. But yeah, I think it's like an individual, right? So a professional athlete, a professional musician never stops getting coached, right? And when teams have somebody that's coaching them to continually refine and help them improve how they do what they do, then that enables them to do more, because someone external is noticing, oh, gee, every time Tom talks, everyone else just kind of sits back, right? Or there's this tension with Sally, and you can just tell that there's something that wants to come out, but she doesn't say it. So how do you allow those gifts to happen to get those voices in, to have those tough conversations sometimes, or those appreciative conversations in a way that it's just you're coming with no expectations, but you're bringing your whole heart and whole self to do it so that you can accomplish more.
It almost sounds like business counseling, team counseling in a way. Is that close to accurate?
I guess depending on how you look at it, right? It's less about
because you haven't talked about, hey, we're going to increase your typing words per minute from 50 to 100, or we're going to do your email response. That's not what we're talking about here. It seems to be more about interpersonal relationships and self-awareness, I guess.
It is. So we think about decision making. There's everyone comes to the event, if you will, where we're going to make a decision with a different frame and different experiences. I've been on a lot of teams and this is how we've always made decisions, or there's how this boss did it, and I follow that. And it may or may not work for everyone in the room, and it may shut certain people down in a way. Like, here's what I think we should do. Well, if the boss says that, is he really inviting someone else's opinion? Or it's just and how you approach it, and realizing, I was thinking about this the other day. A lot of leaders and I appreciate it, right, go through coaching and developing, and they really focus on themselves. And I think the next level is really looking at how their behavior, even their new behavior, still impacts others in the room. How do they perceive it? So it's from a counseling standpoint, it's an up-leveling. It's not a training. Here's the 5 steps you take to make a decision. There's a lot of models out there on decision making, for example. It's got to fit the people in the room.
Awesome. So who's a good candidate? Who's a good referral for Crescendo Coaching Group?
Yeah. Any business team. I seem to gravitate. It's because of my business experience. I like working in a business environment. So it could be a corporate, a big corporate entity. That it could be, a team of vice presidents or C-level, or even frontline level managers. As long as they're willing, there has to be a desire. We want to be better. Maybe we don't understand what team coaching is yet, but we want to get better. And if this is going to help us do it, then let's discuss it. And nonprofits as well, because I do a lot of pro bono coaching through Humanitarian Coaching Network and a group called Gratitude Network, and because I want to give back. So that's kind of extending what I do in the individual coaching network, or coaching to team coaching, and engaging and helping nonprofits as well.
Is there a limit on group size?
Yeah, good question. Optimally, you got to have at least 2 people for a team, right?
That makes a group.
I'd probably say 3 to no more than 7 or 8, because if it gets too large, it's too unwieldy. And a lot of times with really effective team coaching, especially large teams, I may bring a co-coach in, so that one's kind of in it and another's just stepping back and looking from a different angle. And then the co-coaches will have dialogue in front of the team, and notice different things. So it brings even more value.
Interesting. Awesome. Well, thank you. That's great. I know our group has worked with you a little bit. It's always revealing, humbling a little bit, to go through a coaching session. But well, thanks for joining us. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about Bakersfield Business Partners. Just really quick, tell me how long you've been a member of the group.
Been a member just over a year.
Okay, awesome. And just tell us what that's been like. Has it helped you grow? Has it helped your business grow?
Yeah, so it's I look forward to every Tuesday getting together, because it's almost like a family. There's a lot of respect. It's a professional group. People take a lot of pride in what they do, and what it enables me to do is to learn about all these different businesses, and how, as I'm just bumping into people in my different interactions, I might be able to help somebody else. So I've always, part of me, altruism, and helping others is important. And I was thinking about this morning. My years at Radio Shack was, you have questions, we have answers, was kind of a theme. Mm-hmm. And that resonated with me. So now when I bump into people and I have the opportunity to say, oh, you need a handyman, or you need someone to come out and fix your air conditioning, I can help them. So it makes me feel good to be able to do that. And also I'm helping my fellow BNI partners.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Look, Bakersfield Business Partners is a BNI chapter here in Bakersfield. We meet Tuesday mornings at 7:30. And as Fred said, we're a group of professionals. We meet every week, and we really just educate the other members in the group on what we do, why we're passionate about our business, what makes us different, unique, better than our competition. And then, as Fred said, as he's just interacting in his daily life, as he's bumping into people, it's easier for him to pass referrals to members of the group. So we help our members' businesses grow through referrals, but also through education and relationship. So anyhow, Fred, thanks, man. Always fun talking to you, and never a boring conversation. So enjoy your Friday, and this will conclude our podcast. Until next Tuesday, we'll see you then.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks.